going back, coming back, and viewing it time and time again lets me know that people are hungry for the truth. As Jesus said, if you continue in my word, then are you my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall what? Not set you free, make. Set and make are two different things. I can set this cup of water over here, and somebody can come and set it back over here. But if this water is made for this position to be here, nobody can move it. It's made. So set and make are two different things. So Jesus said, the truth will make you free. That's if you want to be free. Now, not everybody wants to be free. And I don't blame or condemn or judge anyone that don't want to be free. If you want to be free, then you're in the right place. But if you don't, then, hey, you're wasting your time here. I'm here to make you free. I've been talked about, I've been ridiculed, been called everything but a child of God. I've been on practically every radio station here in Dallas. White stations as well. They threw me off those stations. One station blew up because they wouldn't take me off. We had a Black World bookstore that we supplied books to the community here in Dallas, right around the corner from Pan-African bookstore. People wouldn't support that. But we've been in the move for God since 1988. I'm talking about a different type of movement. But we started in 1982, so we're 31 years for God and counting. Now, in the book of Psalms 82 and 6, I'm going to read this and then we're going to move right along. In the book of Psalms, the 82nd chapter, and we're going to read at the 6th verse. I have said, you are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, but you shall die like men, and fall like one of the princes. And then it said, arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations. Now, what did the scripture mean when it said, you are God? Sometimes you have to put it kind of elementary before people can understand what is a God. And who is God? Now, in Genesis, the Bible said God created man in what? In his own image, after his own likeness, and he breathed in the nostrils of man, and what? Man became a living soul, right? So that means if God breathed into man's nostrils and he became a living soul, then man is a part of God. And God is a part of man. Are you listening? So if a pig can have piglets and a chicken can have little chickens and a cow can have calves, cannot God have gods? That's why he said, you are gods. But in the process, after he created us, we failed from the knowledge of God and the knowledge of self, and therefore we became human. And we began to call ourselves human beings. But in reality, we're just being human. Because where did you come from before you became a human? Who were you? Where did you reside? Where was your place of blood? You were a spirit. All of us are spirits from God, because God breathed that spirit into our nostrils and we became a living soul, and we had the attributes and we had the power just like God.
All right.
Are you listening? And we can do the things God did.
Yeah.
Look in your Old Testament how Moses parted the Red Sea with his rod. And how Elijah went across Jordan through dry ground. And how all the miracles and signs and wonders took place. These were not miracles. These were everyday occurrences when you were in your right place, in your right mind. You could do those things. And then Jesus came back down here on this earth and he said, the works that I do. Jesus was talking to the people. The works that I do shall you do also, and greater works. Now, how are we going to do greater works than Jesus? You mean Jesus, put himself head and shoulders with us? Jesus was a man, born of a woman, just like you and I. But he had to earn his title, the Christ. You're going to have to earn your title in this life. You just can't walk into being a Christ. You have to earn that title. Now, if you read one of the old books, the Bible, before they translated and changed it, they took 18 books out of this Bible. 18 books. And one of them was the genealogy of Jesus that you never read. Are you listening? One called Maccabees and the Book of Mary, they took books out of the Bible, and they call them the lost books of the Bible. They ain't lost. I got them. I got all the books. And I read these books. And the genealogy of Jesus talks about his adolescent days when he was a child. How he used to make things disappear, and how he used to, kill things when he wanted to. He could just speak the word and it would die. Didn't Jesus prove that when he went to a fig tree and wasn't no figs on it? And Jesus cursed the fig tree and told that fig tree, you'll never produce again. And it withered and died. Amen. Are you listening to me? You have the same power that Jesus had, but somebody told you that you didn't. Somebody told you you're just a human being. Somebody told you that you're limited and that you're supposed to be sick, you're supposed to be diseased, you're supposed to be unlimited and have no power whatsoever. But they lied to you. But I'm here to wake you up to the truth that you are God. And you have power just like Jesus had. Jesus healed the sick, he raised the dead, he cast out devils, he cleansed the leper, and he did mighty works. Because he knew who he was. See, Jesus had to pay a price. And Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. How many of y'all ever fasted 4 days? But Jesus fasted 40 days and 40 nights. And after he come off the fast, he met an enemy we call Satan or Shaitan or the devil or Lucifer. He got a lot of names. His name was Lucifer when he was in heaven. But when he was cast out, they called him the devil and Satan. And he walks around and he's a man. Y'all ain't here. He is a man. He no spook. And this man is making havoc all over the planet. Because the Bible said when the sons of God came to present themselves before God, Satan came also, and God asked him, where you come from? He said, from walking up and down to and fro the earth. Amen. So what is he doing? He's killing, he's stealing, and he's destroying. Amen. Are y'all here? Amen. So we need to know who we are. And the message today is the true knowledge of God and the black man. You are black for a reason. God made you black for a reason because everything came out of blackness. If you read in Genesis, the Bible said darkness was over the face of the deep. Are y'all here? So water was here, and darkness was here. And God spoke to let there be light. So light came out of darkness. So God made you black. You are darkness. You are the first.
Completed.
You are the last.
Warning.
You beginning, and you are
detected
the end.
problems that need your attention.
And this world is in a hellish condition, and it's going to take us to get it out of this hellish condition because we are the God-chosen people of this planet. And they have kept this knowledge from you, and it's coming out now. Nobody can stop it. If you just get on YouTube and just kind of go through there, you'll find a whole lot of teachers that are teaching this truth without any reservations. And they're telling it just like it is, who you are and your position in life. You got work to do. Now, some of you just waking up, some of you just getting a little taste of it, some of you just, kicking on the banks of the shore of the water, but there are some out there in the deep water swimming with the sharks and the whales. Are y'all here? And know this truth and are using the powers that God has given them. Are y'all here?
Amen.
Now, the true knowledge of God and man is that God is in man. The scripture says, you are God's, and the Spirit of God is in you. You are the temple of God. God presides inside of you. We've been praying to God out here in space, or praying over here, over there, but the power and the kingdom is in you. Are you listening to that? Man is a God. Now, this knowledge has been hidden for thousands of years from the black man. Who and where God is. Anybody ever heard of W.R.T? Called a multi-genius? He was the first medical man. He was a physician. And he was the first one known to mankind. Even preceding those mentioned in the 5 books of Moses. The Old Testament and the New Testament. And the books in the Greeks and the Romans and the Chaldeans and the Babylonians and the Sumerians and other ancient worlds learned their basic medicine from this African Negro.
Amen.
Called W.R.T. He was a grand vizier. He was a prime minister. He was an architect. He was a poet.
Yeah.
And he was a holder of many positions during his lifetime while he served his Pharaoh, his Joseph. He was one that built the first step pyramid in Egypt. A black man. They said Hippocrates was the father of medicine. They lied. W.R.T. was the father of medicine. And when you see that little medical insignia with a pole and 2 snakes entwined around about it and a ball at the top, that's the medical insignia. But they got that from Africa. That's our symbol. We created it, but they stole it. And they call it the caduceus. Are you listening? We're trying to wake you up because you've been hit in the head and left for dead for thousands of years. And those that are in rule today have only been ruling for 6,000 years, and their time is up, and now your time has come to rule this planet like it was in the past, because you ruled civilizations for over 10,000 years with no wars, no death. Are y'all here? No crime, no disease. You ruled, and your kingdoms lasted thousands of years. And if you read your Bible, it'll show you the fragmentations of our zenith when we lived over 969 years. Who was that? That was Methuselah. He lived to be 969 years. What happened to that? What happened to us that we're dying at 50, dying at 30, and we say we're old when we reach 90 or 100? You're not old, you're still a child. You can live as long as you desire. But you got to have your head on straight. You got to know who you are, where you came from, and who your God is. And I'm seeking the knowledge. I'm not saying I know it all or I have it all. But I'm seeking the truth. And the truth is making me free. And I'm trying to make you free. Now, W.R.T. was known to the Greeks as the Prince of Peace over 2,000 years before the Christian Jesus Christ. Before Jesus Christ, Imhotep was known as the Prince of Peace. Think about that. Everything they've given us in the Bible, they stole it from us. And then rearranged it and changed it and gave it back to us in a corrupt form. And you think you're reading the real thing, but you ain't reading the real thing until you go to the Vatican. You know the most powerful religion on the planet? Roman Catholic. And did you not know America is a corporate entity? It's not a real government. It's a corporate entity. And it only held 10 square miles in Washington, D.C. 10 square miles in Washington, D.C. 1500 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's a corporate business, not a government. But America is owned by the Queen of England. And the Queen of England has got to look to the Pope, which is the Roman Catholic Church. See, Rome never died. They just kind of switched gears and did a little something different. But everybody got to bow to the Pope because they recognize him as God on earth. But who were the gods on earth before they came? We were. They stole our heritage. They stole our culture. They stole our history. They stole our heritage. They stole our mother tongue. They stole everything that we had and went back to Greece and Europe and Britain and became the fathers of what we taught them in ancient times, and then plunged us in a mindset and called us Negro, coons, colored folk, and niggers. See how quiet it is? I don't hear no amen. Imhotep is the man that's credited with the saying, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. He wrote that. Imhotep lived more than 2,000 years before the Europeans and European Americans, the father of medicine, Hippocrates of Greece, before he was born. Yet, Western educators continue teaching that Hippocrates was the father of medicine. That's a lie. They still teach it in the schools today. Who's medicine? Not our medicine. Huh? Now we find the same European father of medicine, Hippocrates, paying homage to his teacher and God, Imhotep, who the ancient Greeks and Romans called Anacalypsis. And the oath speaks for itself. See, every physician had to take an oath when they became a doctor or physician. And they did not give people chemicals or drugs that would hurt them, and they would not cut on them. They gave them something that was going to help them, not in this medical world that we live in today. When you go to the hospital, they meet you at the door with a knife. Y'all ain't here. They're going to cut, burn, or poison. That is the ideology of medicine today. Cut, burn, or poison. You got cancer, they want to put radiation on you. And radiation kills the good cells as well as the bad cells. Y'all ain't here. When there's been a cure for cancer for the last 2,000 years. But they don't want to tell you there's a cure for cancer. I got the cure to cancer. Y'all ain't here. I know the cure to cancer. But you better not get out there saying you got a cure for cancer. They'll lock you up and put you away because you're messing with their money. The pharmaceuticals, when you come with a cure for cancer, see, they can't patent these herbal cures. They can't patent the greens and stuff out there that's growing in the grass that will cure cancer because they want to give you chemicals. They want to give you something that's got side effects. They give you a chemical and they say take this 3 times a day. But read the side effects first before you take it. And you read the long list of side effects. Well, when you take this, you may have bloody bowels, and your nose will start bleeding, and your eyes might fall out, and your ears might start running, and you might die. But take this 3 times a day. Does that make any sense? Here you are taking something that might kill you, and you're trying to get rid of what you have, but you're gaining something other than what you got. Are y'all here? That don't even make no sense. Listen to the oath that Imhotep wrote for every physician to take. This is the oath. I swear by all power, the physician and Anacalyptus and health and all heal and all the gods and goddesses that according to my ability and judgment, I will keep this oath and this stipulation to reckon him who taught me this art equally dear to me as my partner, to share my substance with him, and to relieve his necessities if required, to look upon him, his offspring, in the same footing as my own brother. This is what a doctor's supposed to do. And to teach them this art. Ain't no doctor going to teach you how to heal or teach you how to take care of yourself. No. They will make money off of you with prescriptions. And then he said, if they shall wish to learn it without fee or stipulation, and that by precept, lecture, and every other mode of instruction, and I will impart a knowledge of this art to my own sons and those of my teachers, and to disciples bound by the stipulation and oath according to the law of medicine. But to none others. I will follow that system of region which according to my ability and judgment, and I consider for the benefit of my patients, and abstain from whatever is deleterious and mischievous, and I will give no deadly medicine. I will give no deadly medicine to anyone if asked, nor suggest any such counsel. And in like manner, I will not give to a woman or per se to produce abortion. They would not help a woman abort their child. With purity and with holiness, I will pass my life and practice my order. I will not cut persons laboring under the knife or the stone, but will leave this to those done by men who are practitioners of this work. And to whatever house I enter, I will go into them for the benefit of the sick, and will abstain from every voluntary act of mischief and corruption, and further from the seduction of females or males. So, what about that seduction? Females and males. And a free man and slave, whatever, in connection with my professional practice or not. In life of men which ought not to be spoken of but kept secret, while I continue to keep this oath unviolated, may I be granted to me to enjoy life and the practice of the art, perfected by all men in all times. But should I trespass or violate this oath, may the reverse be my lot. That is the Hippocratic oath that all doctors, medical or whatever, supposed to take. Now, during the life of Imhotep, it was given many titles. Among them was Chancellor, a king of the Lower Kemet, the first after the king of Upper Kemet, higher priest in Holopus, and administrator of the great palace, just to name a few. He was also responsible for the design of the step pyramid, and his surroundings compound was referred by Marato in 285 BCE, and the inventor of the art building that was cut from stone. Imhotep was described as the world's first multi-genius. His brilliance, his stupendous and archaeological ability, for he was also revered as astronomer, philosopher, a poet, a physician, and really in the noble man more popular than the king he served. But in this case of Imhotep, he was worshipped in early Christianity as the Prince of Peace and described as the first Christ, a title meaning the Anointed One. The Anointed One. Now, when you get into the study of self and who you are and where you came from, it would take several hundred lifetimes to find out the beginnings of us. Because time erases the beginning of our history. Why do you think they tried to completely wipe out our history, our culture, and our language, and who we were? Because if we were left intact during slavery, we would not be in our condition today, because every black person on the planet suffers because of what happened over 400 years ago. Slavery. Now, a lot of people don't understand, but you have a post-traumatic condition that has not been dealt with. And the reason why you do the things you do, say the things you say, and think the way you think is because you have a post-traumatic condition that has not been dealt with. You lie, you steal, you kill, you debate, and do all types of evil things and don't know why. There's a reason. Post-traumatic syndrome. During the Gulf War and the Vietnam War, those men went in there, they killed, they pillaged, and they robbed, and when they came back, they had post-traumatic syndrome, and they needed help, many of them. And many of them went crazy. Some of the things they had to do, the government told them to do it, so they needed help. Who helped us? What kind of help did we get when they freed us in the Emancipation Proclamation, so-called, in 1865? Did they help us? We had post-traumatic syndrome because we were beaten on a daily basis. A lot of us were starved to death. We worked from can't see to can't see. They pillaged through us. They raped our wives and our children and little boys. This went on not 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. This went on for over 400 years. We worked and built this country, and no one is trying to help us mentally. We some sick puppets, y'all. We walk around here think we are really sane and we really know the truth. But they laugh at us. Those that empower, those that set high, they laugh at us on a daily basis. They say, they just don't really know, do they? They don't know what we did to them. It goes so deep. It's going to take several lifetimes for you to come out of what you are under. And they create all these diseases and put names on them. There was no such things in ancient times. Arthritis, rheumatism, heart disease, rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, all these diseases they create and put a title on them and then prescribe drugs that will kill you. I don't hear no amen. And see, when this kind of message goes forth, people get quiet because the wheels of their mind begin to turn and they begin to think because somebody needs to remind you. See, God called me to be an agitator. You know what an agitator is? And those old washing machines used to be agitators. You put them dirty clothes in there, and if you don't have an agitator, those clothes ain't going to get clean. But that agitator just beat those clothes and move them around and toss them up and down and go down and come up. It agitates the clothes and get the dirt out. I'm trying to agitate you to wake you up because you've been asleep for thousands of years. Somebody got to wake you. Somebody got to shake you. It's a dirty job. Somebody got to do it, and I chose to do it. It doesn't matter whether you like me or not. It's irrelevant, basis, and immature whether you like me. But I'm here to wake you up at all costs. We start out with thousands of people, and when I start teaching this truth, they start running for me like I was rain and they were roaches. They didn't want to hear the truth. But I got to tell it. And those of you that are still here, God put you here for divine reason. You can't go nowhere because when God plants you somewhere, He wants you to stay there and produce. You're something like a pillar to hold up the foundation. Because Word Revival Temple has a foundation, and the foundation is sure, and you're part of the foundation of Word Revival Temple. We ain't going nowhere. We're moving. It might not be fast like other churches and other ministries, but we're moving. And once we reach our zenith, it'll be all over. Now, God has pre-established righteous cycles. Which control fire, air, water, and earth. These cycles also control the seasons of the cycles of birth and growth, joy and happiness, and the renewing of the spirit and spiritual evolution. An in-depth study of the cycles of life will render a deeper knowledge and understanding of the basic principles of life and the Creator, and how to use them to keep the world in a spirit of holiness. Now, this spirit produces more holy thoughts, which form the idea that produces action which are never contrary to the will and intentions of the Creator. These actions cannot be misinterpreted in any way to influence man to think wrong or do wrong against himself, his fellow man, or God. Now, the evil one has been very clever as he looked and locked us into his cycles of death, where we grope as a blind man in noonday. However, throughout the Holy Scriptures, there is an allusion to a great dividing, which will also be a great deliverance. And we must take note that every great deliverance, there is a great separation. Instead of an integration, as a matter of fact, the Hebrew nation began with the setting apart of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob from the society of people which he knew. How can you build a nation and integrate with an enemy? Dr. King started out with freedom, but he didn't know the degrees of freedom until this enemy, this beast that's been ruling for over 6,000 years said, oh, he don't know the degrees of freedom. Well, let's define it for him. Let's give him integration. Since they want to eat with us, they want to come in our restaurants, they want to come in our stores, because we kept them out of our stores and restaurants for hundreds of years. Now, let's let them come on in so we can really blow the boom on. So it went from freedom, wanting to be free and equal, to civil rights, to integration. And the movement was overthrown with integration. Now, how many grew up in the era where you had white water fountains and colored water fountains? White restrooms and black restrooms. Those of you remember those days, you know what I'm talking about. You couldn't go into the front of the restaurant. You had to go around the back or the side to get your water. I remember my dad took us out one evening, and he went to this restaurant, pulled up in front, and went around to the back, and I said, where's Daddy going? How come he ain't going in there and get us something to eat? And then when he came back with a bunch of sacks with food. I said, how come you didn't go in the front? Why'd you go around the back? He said, son, we're colored folk, and they won't let us come through the front. We have to go around to the back to get our food. I said, that's crazy. I was a kid. And when I grew up, during that time, I would go to H&L Green. Some of y'all know where H&L Green was. They had the colored and white water fountains. Guess where I go? I drank from the white one. Guess where I go to the restroom? I went to the white restroom. Are y'all still here? And when I got on the streetcar, I stayed in the front. I didn't go to the back. They had a big old hand, colored, go to the back of the bus. But I stayed in the front. Why? Because at a young age, I was a revolutionary. And I didn't like the system when I was young. And the system has not changed. And it ain't going to change until you change it. Oh yeah, we got a few little trinkets. Passed a few laws for us. And we're the only people on the planet that they got to pass legislation for us to have rights. When other people come from other countries, they got rights immediately. But here you are, been here over 450-some years, and they have to pass legislation for you to have some kind of right. What kind of mess is that? You ain't free. I said years ago they're going to start slavery back again, and it's already started. Guess where it started at? In the prisons. Because you got private organizations now that are building prisons and making money off these brothers and sisters. And they're making products and they're shipping them out all around the world, and they don't get paid one dime, but they're making all these products in prison. That's slavery all over again, in a different form. We better wake up. We better smell the coffee. See, I ain't gonna just get behind the pulpit. What he said, what he said, and he said, what he said, and he said, what he said. I don't know, he didn't say. He said something, but I don't know what he said. He said a bunch of words. But see, we are going to sleep. You remember Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, and all those freedom fighters doing the Underground Railroad? What was their issue? Was the preacher got to get down the pulpit and look good and let people, lift you up? Oh, he sure can preach. No. They were preaching the gospel with messages to the slaves. Because they couldn't come right out and tell the slaves, look, there's going to be a boat by the river tonight at 10 o'clock. So all you that want to go or want to come, be there at 10. They couldn't just come out and say it, because Master John would beat them or even kill them. So they had to sing it. They had to preach it. They had to incorporate in their messages. And they had to sew it into the blankets. Turn left, Negro. Turn left. Or you see, they sewed them in the blankets. Then they figured out when we was playing those drums, that we had messages in the drums, so they took our drums. But that didn't stop us. We still communicate with one another. We're still in slavery. And this is the Underground Railroad, whether you know it or not. W.R.T. is an underground railroad, and we're trying to help you become free again. Are y'all here? Now the evil one, we call Satan the devil. He's messed us up so bad that when the truth bearer comes, he's rejected. When God sends someone like myself, or Stokely Carmichael, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Nat Turner, Malcolm X, Minister Louis Farrakhan, and many other freedom fighters to help to free you, a lot of us run from. And we have Willie Lynch to thank. Anybody know who Willie Lynch is? 1785. Willie Lynch relied or made a system that would brainwash black people for the next 1,000 years. Willie Lynch. He's a white man. He went from plantation to plantation to plantation, teaching the owners of the slaves how to treat their slaves, to brainwash them for the next 1,000 years. And you know what? I think it's working. It's working good. I see it in my people every day. All you have to do is just go to Walmart and sit in your car and watch those people come and go. You got people with all kinds of mentalities. And there's a few of us waking up, but there's more of us asleep than awake. And that's why I'm here, to wake it and shake it. Now, in closing, the Holy Bible also teaches us that we must separate the clean from the unclean, and the holy from the profane. Then if deliverance begins with separation, we must separate ourselves from the objective of America and the world. And we must separate our morals, our principles, our values, and outlook, and we must conclude by separating ourselves. Now, what good did that do for us to separate? To integrate in the 60s. We integrated them. Now, while we were separate, and they wouldn't let us into their stores and different places of business, what were we doing? We had black banks. We had black cab companies. We had black grocery stores. We had black businesses, pharmacies. We had all these black businesses that were thriving. Y'all remember the Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that white folk went in there and destroyed in the early 30s, 40s? They had a thriving community. I'm talking about black millionaires. Back in the day, they had a little town. They had everything they needed, and across the track were white folk that were struggling, and they had to come and get loans and borrow money from black folk. But they didn't let that last. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, they went up in planes and they dropped dynamite on their town. And went in there and killed men, women, and children, and bulldozed all their houses into a hole and wrote it out of the history books for over 40 years. Black people never heard anything about it. But we were doing good while we were separate. But when we integrated, now look at us. Look at TV. We buck wild. Black folk don't know their head from the head on the ground. You don't know who you are. Because we integrated with an enemy of God. You got to separate yourself from the enemy if you want to survive in this world. Now, we got to live with them. Yeah, we got to live with them. But I think there's a way to live with your enemy. You got to always know you have an enemy. Why is it that all animals and insects know they have a common enemy, but you? The dog and cat are not friends. The dog knows he's an enemy of the cat, and the cat knows he's an enemy of the dog, unless they've been domesticated and fall in love with each other, play with each other. But naturally, the dog don't play with the cat, and the cat don't play with the dog. And the rat is not a friend of the cat. That's nature. But here you are, the highest creation of God. You don't feel you have an enemy. You don't feel that there is a devil that's walking around with two legs on this earth that you have to watch out for, and you got to watch him. But separation is the only way you're going to build a nation. Right? See, our problem, whenever we get something that's powerful, that's working, we let the enemy in. Don't. We invite him to come to our meetings. And he come right in and throw a monkey wrench in the works. There are some organizations now waking up and they say, the white man ain't coming to our meetings. We don't let him in our meetings. Why? Because he's doing exactly what he was created to do 6,000 years ago. And he ain't changed. And he ain't going to change. Now, when I ask people sometimes, who is your enemy? You kind of in reservation before they speak. Who is your enemy? What do you look like? Reason why you can't fathom him as an enemy is because he's brainwashed you when you was a little child. When you was in Sunday school, you saw pictures of Jesus. And Jesus had blonde hair and blue eyes. And you said Jesus had blonde hair and blue eyes, his father must look just like him. So that means in your computer mind, you saying God is white and Jesus is white. But that's a lie. If you look in the history books, before the European ever came out of the caves of Europe, black men and women were worshipped all over the planet as deity. Go to the Pope down in the Vatican, in the basement, they got a black Madonna and child that the Pope goes and worships on a daily basis. A black Madonna and a child that are black. He knows. Jesus is black. Are y'all here? Shout out, amen. Amen. Somebody don't want this message. But I got to tell you. We have Michelangelo to thank for painting Jesus, all the disciples, and Mary, and Joseph white. Now, what if you had known this when you were 3 years old? And your parents and your relatives and everyone around you, your teachers, taught you the truth about who you were and your history. Where would you be today? You wouldn't be stumbling around asking somebody else for a job. You'd be building businesses. You'd be working with other nations, trying to help build your community up. You wouldn't be in your condition today if you knew exactly who you were. But let me close. I can't finish out. I know it's warm here. Let me close. I'm restraining myself. Because it's so much that there's not enough time to tell it all. And if our history, real history, was told to the world, a brass monkey would sit up and cry. I was listening to Sister Agnes last Sunday. She said her and her husband went to this Holocaust museum. And they saw the pictures of those people that were led to the gas chambers and were killed, slaughtered like animals. Over 6 million Jews. There's a book called Secret Relations with Blacks and Jews. Because Jews, they understand our sufferings, but they may not acknowledge it. They understand what we've been through, but they ain't going to talk about it. They will talk about their history and say, never again, never again. That's why they show it on TV. That's why they have these museums. That's why they want you to come and see what happened to them. But what happened to us when we were brought to Rikers Island? They said it's been over 450 years, and when they go into that dungeon, they still smell the stench of slavery. The feces and the urine and the bodies that died in those breaking holes in the Caribbean. And many people, before they could even walk in there, they said they began to break down and cry because they felt and saw the spirit of our people still wandering around there, wondering when somebody going to stand up and speak against what happened and bring reparations to a lost people. See, the Jews, they suffered in the camps, in the gas chambers, and that was maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years and 6 million. But our Holocaust has never been told. We lost over 600 million just during the Middle Passage. Coming from Africa, over 600 million, and the sharks would follow the slave ship because they knew the dead bodies would be thrown off on a daily basis that didn't make it. And a lot of the slaves would jump off on purpose to kill themselves because they didn't want to be a slave. And a lot of women would kill their own children, said, I'd rather have my child to be dead in their grave than to be a slave. So they killed their own children. And this didn't go on for 1 year. This didn't go on for 2 years. This didn't go on for 3 or 4 years. This went on for over 450 years, y'all. Non-stop. And no one want to weep for us. But we weep for everybody else, but nobody want to weep for us. Nobody want to hear about our Holocaust. Nobody want to talk about our history. No one want to say, well, we're sorry what we did to you. Here's a few reparations. No. Everybody then got paid. The Chinese got paid. The Indians got paid. Every nation that went through something with America and these beasts in human form, they were paid some form of restitution or reparation. But us, as I said before, I don't care if you empty Fort Knox, that wouldn't be enough to pay for the sufferings and the debt and what we did and free labor for over 400 years here in America. This whole country belongs to us. We helped the white man steal this country. We helped them fight in the Civil War. Every war that America had, black folk been in the wars. And then after the war was over, they plunged us deeper into slavery. When we gonna wake up? See, a lot of preachers, think it's fun. Sunday morning they come preach. Oh, I got a hot mess, boy. I'm going to really stir up the sisters today. I'm going to really stir up the people today. I'm going to preach like a fire. I'm going to show them I got class and I got this. But they ain't mentioned nothing about our sufferings and what we've been through and what we're still going through today. Not a word. There's one brother, I forgot his name, but he preached at Friendship West Church. That brother preached. He threw down. He talked about African history. He laid it on the line. And I was listening for the folks to say amen. I ain't hear nothing. Friendship West, big church, black folk, you know, come all dressed up in big hats. He got up there and preached. I got a tape of him. And boy, he was preaching. And boy, you think he was in a cemetery or a funeral. Nobody was saying that. But he was teaching.